Okay, good morning. What we're going to do today, in preparation for Monday's lab, we are going to make an Agarose gel. An Agarose gel is necessary in order to run the PCR sample so that we can see the DNA on the gels. So instead of you coming in to see me make the gel, I'm going to do it on video and then you will have access to it all the time. What we have is a gel cassette, which we need to set the gel in. We need TAE buffer, which is necessary to make the gel. And this is also the buffer that will run the gel in. It's a special buffer that allows the transport of electricity through the gel in a very efficient way. We have Agarose, and in this bottle here we have 2 grams of Agarose. So we're going to add 100 ml of TAE buffer to this in a minute. That will give us a final concentration of 2% Agarose. Agarose is this substance that is extracted from seaweed, for example. It's used in food substances to make things thicker. It's something that will turn into a gel. And later on, as you'll see, we're going to use this very nasty toxic substance known as ethidium bromide. This is very toxic, carcinogenic, so we have to be very, very careful when we're using this. We'll use this later. So in order to make the gel, we take 2 grams of Agarose and we add 100 ml of TAE buffer. And as you'll see straight away, even if we shake it around a little bit, it won't dissolve. In order to get it to dissolve, we need to add some heat. So we're going to put this in a microwave. Now, before we put it in the microwave, we are going to loosen the top of the lid. We have to do this, otherwise we run the risk of it exploding. We need to let some of the air out. We put it in the microwave, and then we heat it on about 600 watts. And we do this for approximately 3 minutes. We will check during the 3 minutes whether this has dissolved properly or not. Quickly, take it out. I can feel that it's warm. I just do the lid up again, and then I shake it around. And then I put it back in, making sure that I undo the lid a little bit to let out the pressure. Okay, this has had approximately 2.5 minutes. I've shaken it a couple of times, and now you can see quite clearly it's nice and dissolved. We can see the bubbles rushing to the top. This is usually an indicator that the Agarose is dissolved. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to just leave this on the bench to cool down for approximately 5 minutes. We've let this cool down for a few minutes. It's still quite hot, but it's okay. What we're going to do now is add the ethidium bromide. Now, ethidium bromide, as I said before, is extremely toxic. So we have to be very careful when we're adding it, that we don't breathe in any of the substance. Now, for 100 ml, we need around about 2 to 3 drops. So 1, 2, 3. I will put the lid back on. Give it a gentle swirl. Now, what the ethidium bromide does is that when we add our DNA samples to the gel and the DNA runs through the gel, the ethidium bromide that's in the gel will connect or bind or intercalate with the DNA. Now, what happens then is that when we shine a UV light on, wherever there's ethidium bromide, there'll be DNA. So we'll be able to track the individual bands of DNA via shining UV light on the gel. Wherever there's ethidium bromide, there'll be DNA. And so we'll be able to see that in discrete bands on the gel. Now, what I'm going to do is very carefully pour this into the cassette, and we pour it until Now, if there are air bubbles formed, don't panic. We can gently, with our fingers, just pop them. If the air bubbles are near the side, it's not a problem. And what we do now is we just leave the gel to set. Okay, this is around about 30 minutes later, and you can see that it is set and it's got this opaque type of colour on it. You'll also notice that I'm not wearing goggles anymore because we don't have to worry about fuming or boiling substances flashing into my face. Everything is solid. So the ethidium bromide is not so toxic when it is in a solid matrix like this gel. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to remove this comb very carefully, just by lifting upwards. And I'm going to take the gel out of its case, and you can see it's now in gel format. And you can see, if you look at the top of it, all the little wells inside it. That is where the samples will go. On the bottom, you will see some residual gel that leaked out of the side. That we don't need anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these bags. Open the bag up, put my gel in the bag, close the bag, and then place this in the fridge. And this will store happily until Monday when we run our gel. Thank you for watching. This was a lab video to show you how to make a 2% Agarose gel.